Okay, hello Math 7 students, Miss Gizzy here. Today we're going to take notes on multiplying and dividing fractions, so we're going to fill in the rest of your fractions foldable. First, starting with some things to remember when you're multiplying fractions. Make sure that you multiply straight across the numerator and straight across the denominator. Make sure that you change all integers and mixed numbers to improper fractions at the beginning of the problem. That is not optional, you must do it. And then cross-simplify whenever it's possible. Looking at the first example, just multiplying fractions. In this problem number 1, there is nothing that I see that we can cross-simplify, so we are simply just going to multiply straight across the numerators. 1 times 3 is 3, and we're going to do the same thing for the denominators. 2 times 5 is 10, so the answer is 3/10. In problem number 2, we have some simplifying we can do before we get to multiplying. Both the 4 and the 8 are divisible by 4. So in the numerator, we're going to simplify to 1, and in the denominator, 2. Now, I want to point out here that as long as you have one number in the numerator and one in the denominator, you can simplify them even if they're not part of the same fraction. So that goes for the -5 and the 15 as well. Both are divisible by 5. I expect you now to rewrite the problem, -1/2 times 1/3. And just like we did with the first problem, we are going to go ahead and multiply straight across the numerators. -1 times 1 is -1. And if you don't remember your multiplying rules, remember the triangle to help you determine whether an answer should be positive or negative. Now, multiplying across the denominators, 2 times 3 is 6, so our answer is -1/6. Looking at number 5, now we're getting into some fractions that have mixed numbers, integers, and so on. So this first problem, I'm going to rewrite -12 as -12 wholes times 3/4. So we can do some simplifying. Both the 4 and the 12 are, the -12 are divisible by 4. So if I rewrite this problem, -3 wholes times 3 wholes would be -9. In problem number 7, we have 4 and 1/5 times 2 and 1/7. So first step is to get improper fractions. 21/5 times 15/7. And we can do some simplifying. 21 and 7 are both divisible by 7. 5 and 15 are both divisible by 5. So if we rewrite the problem, 3 wholes times another 3 wholes would be 9 wholes, or just +9. Now, I know that I skipped problem number 3 and 4. You can do problem 3 on your own. You can leave problem 4 blank for now. You also can do number 6 on your own, but leave number 8 blank. Moving on to dividing fractions, a couple of things you need to keep in mind. The first is that when we divide fractions, we need to remember keep, change, flip. What that means is you are going to keep the first fraction the same. You're going to change the second fraction, or excuse me, you're going to change the division sign to multiplication, and then you flip the second fraction. Next, just like we did with multiplication, make sure you change all mixed numbers and integers to improper fractions. Now, I mentioned it with multiplying, and I want to mention it again, that when we multiply and divide, we use our triangle to help us figure out the sign of the answer. So starting off with problem number 1, looking at this problem, there's no mixed numbers, so I don't need to get improper fractions. Do not simplify a division problem until you keep, change, flip. So I'm going to keep the first fraction the same, change the division to multiplication, and flip the second fraction. Only now I can look and do simplifying. So both 4 and 6 are divisible by 2. If I rewrite my fraction, that's the fraction 5/3 times 2/3. If we follow our multiplication rules, we multiply straight across the numerators. 5 times 2 is 10, and straight across the denominators, 3 times 3 is 9. So 10/9 or 1 and 1/9 would be our final answer. So I'm going to skip problem number 2. Actually, 2 and 4 you can try on your own. We're going to do number 3 together. So again, with this problem, there's no mixed numbers. We don't need to worry about improper fractions, but we should keep, change, flip before we simplify. So keep the first fraction the same, change division to multiplication, and flip the second fraction. So now if we simplify, both the 3 and the 12 are divisible by 3. Rewriting the problem leaves me with 5/4 times a negative 1/2. Multiplying straight across the numerators, 5 times 1 is 5, and 4 times negative 2 would be negative 8 for our final answer. This time when we look at number 5, we do have some mixed numbers. So the first thing we need to do is rewrite the problem using improper fractions. Notice I'm not going to keep, change, flip yet. I'm going to get my improper fractions first, and then we can do that step. So 2 and 1/3 would be 7/3 divided by 1 and 3/4 would be 7/4. Now we can keep, change, flip. Keep the first fraction the same, change multiplication, or excuse me, change division to multiplication, and then flip the second fraction. As far as simplifying goes, both of the 7s, of course, are divisible by 7, which when I rewrite the problem, leaves me with 1/3 times 4 wholes. Multiplying straight across the numerators, 1 times 4 is 4, 3 times 1 is 3, and of course 4/3 would be 1 and 1/3. Okay, looking at number 6, first thing I'm going to do is change that negative 2 and 1/2 into an improper fraction. I'm not keep, changing, flipping yet. So 3/4 divided by negative 2 and 1/2 would be negative 5/2. Now we can keep, change, flip. So keep the 3/4 as it is, change the division to multiplication, and flip the second fraction. For simplifying, we can simplify the 2 and the 4. Both of them are divisible by 2. So rewriting the problem, 3/2 times a negative 1/5. Multiplying straight across the numerators, 3 times 1 is 3, and 2 times negative 5 is negative 10, for a final answer of negative 3/10. I want to do just one more problem with you. So again, on this one, we need to take that 12, the integer, and make it into an improper fraction. So all I'm going to do is rewrite the problem, but have 12 over 1, 12 wholes. Now let's keep, change, flip. Keep the first fraction the same, change the division to multiplication, and flip the second fraction. So it actually looks like we do not have anything we can simplify. Oh no, I'm sorry, we can simplify the 3 and the 12. Just checking to see if you're paying attention. So both the 3 and the 12 are divisible by 3. Rewriting the problem gives me negative 1/8 times 1/4. Multiplying across the numerators, negative 1 times 1 is negative 1, and 8 times 4 is 32. So our final answer is negative 1 over 32. You can try number 8 on your own, and when you're done, give yourself a huge pat on the back because you now know how to multiply and divide fractions.